victory as well as maybe a little leftover pumpkin pie. I'm on about my 8th batch of turkey. We're about to go to soup. Luke Jones joins us here. He will be out at the complex all week in Owings Mills. Who knows with the baseball situation and how that's going to play out before the National Harbor thing that next week with winter owners meetings. But we got ourselves a football race here, Luke. This is as exciting as it could be, even if the team was 9-2 or something like that. I think this last couple games, this stretch, and how they're playing and how the health is coming together, there's no reason to think they won't be playing in January.
Well, we'll have to see. I mean, it's going to come down to them or Pittsburgh.
Simple as that. Yeah.
Based on the way it looks, there's not going to be a wild card from the AFC North. I think everyone points to that AFC West division, certainly with Oakland leading the way, but Kansas City and Denver both in good shape. You look at this division, the quality is not there. That's obvious. From the top down to certainly the bottom with the Cleveland Browns falling to 0-12 on Sunday. But, you have the Ravens and the Steelers. Now, Cincinnati, I think, was pretty much out of it anyway, but certainly with the Ravens taking care of them on Sunday at 3-7-1, that team's done. They run the table 8-7-1 unless the Ravens and the Steelers stub their respective toes a little bit more than everyone might anticipate. I think you'd have to stick a fork in them. So it comes down to these two teams, and it's going to be a matter of that race. I think we all feel that race to 9 wins. Certainly 10 wins is possible for one of these two teams, but both at 6-5, both with very clear flaws. There's no doubt about that. Pittsburgh's the superior offensive team. The Ravens have been the better defensive team, and I think everyone's going to be looking at that Week 16 showdown on Christmas Day. But in the meantime, the Ravens will look ahead now to the Miami Dolphins, who have won 6 straight. Not a dominating team. Look at the point differential, +9. But they sit at 7-4, and they've done a nice job.
They tried to lose at the end there. That's a hell of a play on Kaepernick at the 2-yard line.
Oh, yeah. They haven't made things easy. Don't get me wrong. The Dolphins are not a juggernaut, but 7-4 is 7-4, and I think compared to what we might have thought a couple months ago, looking at Miami coming to Baltimore first Sunday of December, that was one you kind of said, okay, that's a win. I don't think it's quite that elementary, but at the same time, it's a Dolphins team that leans quite heavily on its running game. Ryan Tannehill playing better this year, but still not that guy that strikes fear into the heart of a defense. I think the Ravens will be favored, but they need this one. We've said really from the point that they were 3-4 at the bye week, they had such a horrendous October, injuries, not playing well. We said that stretch where they were going to play 4 out of 5 at home coming out of the bye, they needed to win 4 out of 5 and be at 7-5, and the Ravens are just about there and really need that one on Sunday. They took care of business against the Bengals. There's nothing fancy about it. It was a very 2016 Ravens-like performance. Good defense, offense with a couple decent drives, and kind of stalling at a few more times than you'd like to see, but it comes down to being a win, and that's all that matters at this point in the season.
How do you feel about Joe Flacco at this point? I feel like he's trending in a better direction. I don't ever want to see him slide again. He's going to be getting crushed on sliding for a long time, right? I tweeted that it hurts me to watch him slide. Every time he slides, it looks like he's about to break his leg.
Yeah, it's weird because I don't remember him having this issue. Certainly he's wearing.
He's athletic. He was a baseball player.
He's wearing the knee brace, so that's what's been different here. Look, I'm not going to say that I have a vivid memory of every slide that Joe Flacco made over his first 8 seasons, but I never remember it being something that made you cringe, and now you just hold your breath every single time. Clearly, he's playing with the bulky knee brace on his left knee, and that's impacting him. He's talked about this. He has to pick up his feet a little bit more when he goes to slide. Even talked about the possibility does he need to find some kind of a sleeve to put over his brace. I don't know, but it's something that certainly makes you hold your breath. Certainly not the big big scene it was a few weeks ago when everyone was panicked for at least
the hop, right? I don't know what to call that. The hop, right?
Yeah. But as far as his play, the last couple of weeks he's been more efficient. I think you look at the game plan on Sunday; it was very, very conservative. He only threw the ball downfield a handful of times. What the defense gave him, what the offense was trying to do. It's clear the Ravens weren't overly aggressive, taking shots down the field. I don't know if that was by design or not. Certainly, we've talked so much over the years about that Bengals defense running the cover two that has given Flacco more trouble than any other defense has given him over the course of his career. He's thrown more picks against the Bengals than he has against the Steelers, and he's played more games against the Steelers in his career. But I mean, he was solid. I don't think he was the one who won the game for the Ravens, but didn't do a whole lot where you say was negative.
If I get that effort out of him the next 6 weeks, they can be playing football in January.
Yeah, I mean, at some point they're going. At some point, this formula that they have, which has been good enough against solid teams and bad teams, I mean, we saw this last week. It caught up with them against a team like Dallas. Their offense has to play better against New England if they want to have any chance in that one. That's obvious. It has to play better if they're going to go to Pittsburgh, and we know how big that game is going to be Week 16. But I mean, if you're talking about can it be good enough against Miami? Yeah, I suppose.
I hope so. Huh.
Yeah, Philadelphia. Yeah, I suppose. Although the Eagles, that's a pretty, that's an under the radar, sneaky good defense. I think that over the course of this season, and then I mean that Cincinnati game, Week 17. Who knows if AJ Green's playing on the road? That's one that even if the Bengals are out of it, you can't be sleeping on them because look what happened to the Pittsburgh Steelers coming to Baltimore last year.
I can't imagine they would run A.J. Green out there and have him run around like that for no good reason.
But they're not just going to set him out just for the heck of it. I mean, they remember the initial diagnosis, they were fearing he was going to be out for the year, and then the MRI showed it to be not as severe. We'll see. I mean, who knows what's going to be going on with the Bengals at that point. When a team's out of it, weird things can happen, and a lot of it's probably going to center around the future of Marvin Lewis, quite frankly. There's already been some talk about that. We'll see what happens there. But, I mean, this offense you would think it has to play better if they're going to get where they need to go. But at the same time, it's funny because Flacco, after the game, kind of made the comment that they can't keep trying to, they can't expect to win games continuing to play like this offensively. And it very reminiscent. Think back to that Jacksonville game. I recall him almost verbatim saying the same thing. That was Week 3. Ravens were 3-0, and it was one of those things where he said, okay, well, it's Week 3. They're going to get better as the year goes on. The offense is playing better than it did in October. They couldn't have played much worse, but it's just not firing on all cylinders.
He's getting better protection. We'll say that, right?
Yeah, and I think
there are some lanes in the running game that were there, and there are some receivers who have created enough separation to catch the ball. So, we've made strides. I remember the conversations you and I were having back in October, right? I mean, literally. Yeah.
Well, but better than October, but I don't know if this offense is much better than it was in September. Is my point. When they were healthier then. They weren't healthy in October. They're getting healthier now. So, I mean, we're just going to have to see. I mean, the running game did some nice things. There were some times where they went away from the running game a little bit more, and then some other times, remember, they had 2nd and 1, and they ran on consecutive plays and lost 2 yards on back-to-back plays. So, it's still a work in progress. I mean, it by no means is it a good offense. I mean, that would be disingenuous to say that. This is a team that's averaging under 20 points per game. And in this day and age in the NFL, unless you have a really good defense, which the Ravens do, to their credit, it's challenging to win consistently. So we're just going to have to see. I mean, I think all facets of the offense, from the offensive line, the running game, wide receivers, Joe Flacco included, it does have to be better if you want to feel really, really good about their chances to prevail in this division, knowing that Pittsburgh's not going away, tied right now through the first 11 games. But, I mean, it was good enough against the Bengals. Well, we'll see if it's good enough against Miami come Sunday. But it's still a group that is making things too difficult on themselves. Penalties weren't as big of an issue for the offense as it's been in previous weeks, so I guess that's something you can kind of view as a little bit more of a positive.
Well, they're not in 1st and 20, right? I mean, they were in 1st and 20 once, maybe twice.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't have the run of penalties. Defensively they had some penalties, but offensively they didn't seem to have as many of those back-breaking penalties. So that was good to see. But this is still an offense that I'd be lying if I said I had a ton of confidence in it, even if it is playing better than it was in October. When, by the way, that was a really low standard. They didn't win a game in October.
I'm aware.
Right.
Luke Jones joining us here. He is Luke at WNST.net, as well as Baltimore Luke out on Twitter. Just a reminder, on Wednesday night will be a Christopher Daniel with Zach Orr, as well as Anthony Levine, special teamer, and he's a loquacious sort, and I've never actually sat and talked to him. He's got a lot of Louisiana in him, so we're going to have some fun with him and Zach Orr. That's a Christopher Daniel in Timonium on Wednesday. Thursday night, we've got Dennis Pitta joining us once again at Greenmount Station up in Hampstead, Carroll County. Show start at 7:30 both nights. We'll be swabbing for the Bone Marrow Registry and for There Goes My Hero and the DKMS as well. All right, so to the other side of this, the defense, the Weddle drop of the interception, I wasn't at his locker after the game. Some thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, it's I don't know what there really is to say other than just got to catch the ball when it's like that. I mean, I know people harp on defensive backs for dropping interceptions, but there's a reason why they're defensive backs. If they were great, if they had great hands, many of them would have been wide receivers. But that was one, and Eric Weddle said he'll think about that. You know, those are the types that you think about the rest of your career, and he even said that that's been me over the course of my entire career. I've made some great catches for interceptions, and I've dropped a lot of easy ones. And that was one where that reminded you a little bit of last year's defense when you had a chance to get a takeaway. Not that it would have put the offense on a short field, but certainly it's another possession for your offense. And that was a case where Cincinnati ended up getting some points on that drive. So it's just one of those things that they've been much better in that department than they were a year ago. I mean, their interception totals much higher than it was through 16 games last year when they only had 6 picks. But it's definitely, those are the types of things that against really good teams, those are the mistakes that really will haunt you. It didn't come back to bite them on Sunday because Cincinnati, without A.J. Green, without Gio Bernard, and with the Ravens defense doing a lot of really nice things. I mean, reality was they held Cincinnati to 12 points. They had the 2 at the very end. But this is a defense that the pass rush was okay, wasn't great, but I think was effective enough. And certainly when you see what Terrell Suggs and Elvis Dumervil were able to do, and Dumervil on the biggest play of the game coming up with the strip sack, and Suggs doing it twice, that's something that you like seeing. You'd like to see it from some of the younger guys, and I think Matt Judon did some nice things for them as well. He has been encouraging as a fifth-round rookie. But
we're hearing more about him, and not just for penalties like we did last week, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's something that you like seeing. That's the one area of this defense, beyond the obvious of not having Jimmy Smith the last couple of weeks. I mean, I think it's clear there's drop-off when Sharice Wright is out there. I'm stating the obvious in saying that. But overall, the secondary has played pretty darn well with the thought that the pass rush hasn't been stout week in and week out.
Well, nothing's going over their head. There haven't been the 89-yard touchdown because somebody falls down in the secondary and gets outrun for 50 or 60 yards. None of that's happened. Now, they've kept the play in front of them, right? And that would be something that they're being taught from Dean Pease straight on down.
Yeah. I mean, they've been very effective in that way. The tackling has been more sure than it was a year ago. They've had their lapses. I mean, this isn't a perfect defense, but I think even with the disappointment of last week aside, I mean, this is a defense that the numbers speak for themselves.
By the way, I would say they tackle really well. They don't miss a lot of tackles. You don't see, well, if he would have gotten him down there, but they got a first down and extended a drive. We haven't seen a lot of that. The drives have been extended by pass interference calls and by penalties in general, I think.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we tend to forget as media who are covering the Ravens, watching them every week, and as fans watching the Ravens every week, and you dabble watching the rest of the league, but the Ravens are the one team that everyone sees 16 times, right? I think overall the quality of tackling in the NFL is not what it used to be, and we've talked about the issues of the CBA and teams not doing as much full go live hitting in training camp, and certainly not doing nearly as much of that in the regular season with only a certain number of padded practices. But I think relative to how the rest of the league is playing, you have to look at this Ravens defense and have to be really, really pleased. This team's 6-5 and tied for first place right now. It's not because of the offense. Let's face it. It's because of this defense.
It's because of the kicker.
It's because they have a kicker who's been perfect this year. And that formula, maybe that formula is good enough to get them to 9-7. Certainly I think they'll have a chance with that. I'd love to see the offense play much better, but this defense has been the biggest strength of this team as far as a collective unit. I think one thing you look at with some level of optimism is you do have Elvis Dumervil back now. You hope he's healthy. Certainly made the big play at the end of the game. Didn't have a real loud performance as far as being overly disruptive, but it was also his first action in almost 2 months.
But he also flashed that he's not washed up, right? I mean, he didn't look washed up on the last play of the game.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have to see how how does Set Foot respond to this live game action? How does he look 3 weeks from now? You're hoping the one silver lining with the fact that he's only played 3 of their first 11 games is you're hoping you have a fresh Dumervil in December when opposing offensive lines are wearing down and maybe injury riddled.
You're hoping that on Christmas he makes one huge play. Just huge play, because that'll be the difference maker in a game against Ben Roethlisberger.
And if you think about it, that's kind of been what Terrell Suggs has been this year. I mean, Suggs is having a solid year, and I do think Suggs is a better player now than we saw the first 3-4 weeks.
Sure.
I think he's been more consistently disruptive. He's not Defensive Player of the Year.
He looks like he's in shape, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's running around with his shirt off now and, at the end of the rope and whatnot. He looks committed again. You know what I mean? He's been through waves. He's been here a long time. We've seen the fat version. We've seen the lazy version. We've seen the under siege version. We've also seen best player in the league version at various points in 2010, 2011. What we're seeing right now is, he's trying to be a leader, although he's a bit of a pretend leader, quite frankly. But I do think some people rally around him, and I think it's lead by example. He's still a really good football player, and I think more than anything, underneath of all of the bluster and the bravado, he's got a lot of pride. He's got a lot of pride. He's not going to go out there and be shown up by these younger guys.
There's no doubt about that. And, with some of the things that you just said, keep in mind, 2 repaired Achilles tendons and had a torn bicep, the other arm back in 2012 that he played through, and he's playing through a torn left biceps right now, which that's not easy. I mean, you might think, okay, well, he's not a guy who carries the ball, but those pass rushing moves, to have limited range of motion, limited strength in one arm, it's impressive that he's done what he's been able to do. And when you think about the fact that Darius Smith, healthy and active on Sunday, kind of illustrates he hasn't stepped forward in the way that they had hoped. They've gotten some nice things from Judon, but he's a 5th-round rookie. They've needed Suggs. With Dumervil only playing 3 games all year, and 2 of those games not really noticing him even being out there because he wasn't healthy at that point. It was trying to push it sooner than he should have, quite frankly. Suggs has been, he's been our best pass rushing threat, from off the edge. And maybe isn't a guy that is going to make 6 big plays per game anymore, and not 6 sacks, but hitting the quarterback and doing the things that all the different things he was able to do in his prime. He's still a guy that can flash and come up with a couple big plays per game. Still going to play well against the run
and knock down the ball too. I mean,
sets the edge well, and he's still a guy who is still an above-average player in this league. He's not an All-Pro, but he's still one of the better players on that defense. And, if you can get Elvis Dumervil at least into that kind of mode, and Dumervil isn't going to be an every-down player. That's not his role. Last year it was his role out of necessity, and I think you saw his play suffer as a result. All they need from him is to be a situational guy, to come in there and, whether it's 25, 30, 35 snaps, depending on what kind of offense they're playing, depending on what game situation is as far as how much the opposing quarterback is throwing. Just get after the quarterback. Make the quarterback uncomfortable in the pocket, and can you come up with one big play a game? As far as whether it's a sack, a strip sack or a sack or a big hit on the quarterback, whatever it might be. If he can do that, coupled with what Suggs has been able to do for the most part this year, then you have a much more formidable pass rush. And that's what's exciting. And Eric Weddle talked about this a little bit because I asked him about having Dumervil back out there and making that kind of play. And he said it's exciting as a defense because this defense has played really well without him. If you can get, even if it's a lesser version of Dumervil, but still a guy who can make some plays, this defense becomes even more dangerous. And as much as we've been talking about the offense, wanting to see improvement there, if this defense can get a little bit better, and clearly they need to get Jimmy Smith back. On top of that, I think that's paramount at this point, knowing some of the passing games that they still have to play. If you do that, you have a defense that is maybe not special, maybe not historic, but is really, really good.
I bet you Eric Weddle never drops another one like that. That's what I bet.
I know.
I figured he would have something funny to say after because he's kind of glib, and I know how disappointed he was in himself that he probably would have been funny taking a cheap shot at himself after the game.
Yeah, certainly that's one you can be a little more self-deprecating and good-natured about it after a win. If you lose by a field goal, knowing what happened on that drive, you're really kicking yourself. But he's the kind of competitor, he'll be thinking about that one all week, certainly. But, again, way it worked out, it didn't haunt the Ravens too much as they still came away with the victory.
I'm a huge Eric Weddle fan. We got Zach Orr on Wednesday night joining us along with Anthony Levine. We will be at Christopher Daniel in Timonium. Been a long time since we've been out CD. Come on out. Say hello out on Padonia Road, just to the east of I-83. You know where Christopher Daniel is in the shopping plaza there. Don't forget, Thursday night we're back out at Greenmount Station with Dennis Pitta. We'll be swabbing both nights for the Bone Marrow Registry as we get into the holidays, trying to get more folks registered for the DKMS and for There Goes My Hero. Wednesday in Timonium, Thursday in Greenmount Station in Hampstead. We hope to see you out. We're going to have some great Ravens conversation as well with Dennis Pitta, Zach Orr, and Anthony Levine. You can find Luke at Baltimore Luke on Twitter and Luke at WNST.net. You can find me, Nasty, at WNST.net, anywhere the internet is served. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook Live as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. If you miss anything here this week, we're in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device. Just download the TuneIn Radio app. Our morning newspaper ships to your email inbox at 7 a.m. every morning. That is brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. And last but never least, any breaking news at all. Might have some baseball news before the week is over. Tell me there won't be a bigger mess. Big news happens first on the WNST Tech Service. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis Kolatzis will be here on Thursday driving you home from 3 until 5. I'm Nestor. This is WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.